Hello, hello, one and all. You are watching another Dragon Age vidcast. I'm outside here, tried to get away from the dogs because they're constantly under my feet, and they followed me out here. Two interactive dogs at once, but hey, we'll crack on anyway with this Dragon Age vidcast, and a little something different here with a live conversion project to Age, that you could use it just for generally Age anyway, and, well, I say a live conversion project because that's really what I did, nothing prepared, and I just go in and whenever they encounter something I work out what the Age equivalent would be, or create one there and then on the spot. And it was going to be just Laurie to take on. Just Laurie. So he brought his character Blitzel, who you might remember from such tournaments as that of Cumberland. Tier 2 box set. And, yeah, he fought in that and did quite well. He's the bastard Blood Pentagast. And he killed the Black Bear. Now, the story of the Black Bear is, this is a warrior who passes on his curse to anyone else who kills him. Now, the current Black Bear had got very, very strong, and then when Blitzel killed him, it crossed over, and now Blitzel, has been possessed by the Black Bear and doesn't realise it. So who was the Black Bear? Well, he was a warrior from very many years ago, ancient times, and he died of old age. He could not be bested by anyone. It was important for him to die in combat and find someone that could actually beat him. And he was disgraced, really, because there's almost like too much ego. It's almost like for his people that you are basically likening yourself to a god if you can't die. It's like an insinuation. It's like a heresy. Anyway, this guy would have even been too much for the Fade, and would have come back even after death, come back to inhabit the strongest souls it could find. And the only way to do that was to keep passing on to the victor of each person possessed. So, if he's possessed a great warrior, he will also give them inclination to push towards certain kind of provings, to seek out the greatest dangers and warriors and test against them. And then, in doing so, hopefully find someone that will kill that warrior. He will then transfer over to that warrior. And so it's kind of a spirit possession type of thing. And if it stays with you long enough, then you can start to gain some benefits from it. I can see a specialisation coming on. But as it is, Blitzel's already got the Storm Rider specialisation, which has just been featured on the Dragon Age Oracle that we put out. Laurie and I came up with together for him. So, Blitzel is the new Black Bear. And doesn't even know it. But, he saw the Trial of Champions, the Walk, the Deathtrap dungeon, and just couldn't resist. I mean, you're up against 5 other competitors, and all of the dangers of the dungeon itself. 6 people go in, only 1 can ever come out. That's pretty bad. So, this was originally a fighting fantasy book by Ian Livingstone. Really years and years old. It's one of the first ones that they did, and obviously converting something like that, there's the standards that I use. Wherever you see goblins, you call them genlocks. Wherever you see orcs, you call them hurlocks. So you're kind of forced to bring Darkspawn a little bit into it. So that's one way to go with it. The other thing, if you're going to run something like this, is you're going to want to get hold of a map from somewhere. You're going to want to source one. So I grabbed this one online, and so don't want to show you too much of it because my player will see it. But you can hopefully find one and then make some notes on it for what's possibly coming up. But other than that, you're preparing nothing really. So yeah, Blitzel had to go over to the place. He's a bit of a traveller, anyway. And I thought, well, who's going to be running Deathtrap Dungeon? Who's going to do it? And it occurred to me that it's really going to have to be Tevinter. So the idea was that Baron Sukhumvit, the guy that runs it, is actually a Kalsharok dwarf. He's a psychopath, okay, and he is bored of the normal dwarvish provings, so has travelled to some place where he can spend time with a people who share his sadistic sentiments. And as such, you know, they can have a jolly good time. And, you know, that has worked because he has made a lot of money, obviously, from Deathtrap Dungeon, and no one's ever won it. No one has ever come out alive. Or dead, probably, for that matter. They normally end up eaten, or whatever. The dogs are being extremely interactive at the moment. You might be able to hear just over yonder. Right. Sorry for that. And, anyway, Baron Sukhumvit, Kalsharok Dwarf, it's all great. So, the other thing was the competitors, well, you know, you see a barbarian type, and just making that, a souped-up Talvashoth. And you see, like, an elven girl, and she's got, like, daggers strapped to her and stuff, and it's like, Faces of Thedas Talus, perhaps? You know, try to use stat-wise, where can you go to? And it can really be as just laid back and easy as that, you know. Oh, that was a bit of a wind kicked up. Was that heretical, what I just saying Talus? I think I've stirred up the coon, good and proper. Right, anyway, so off he went to this, in Tevinter, and they went in. So here's what happened with Laurie's little soloing thing here. So, went in, opened the box, read the note, took the 2 gold, and I'll let this be a straight conversion because, you know, why not? And he had multiple ways that he could turn, so he decided to turn left, but then turn right, turn north. So he basically took the middle of the 3 paths that you can possibly take. Met a sort of like crazy caveman guy and smashed him in, and came to a backpack, decided to prod it with his weapon, only to discover that something was moving inside it, so avoided the trap of the thing that was in there. I can't remember what was in there now. Was it a scorpion, a snake? Something nasty, something kind of venomous, bitey, stingy kind of thing. Yeah. But, you know, he never had to deal with it. He left it closed. And then pushed on, avoided, by luck, you know, some of the trap sections and things. Came to a large round room with a kind of Buddha-looking idol in it with 2 emerald eyes. And he tried climbing up that thing desperately and perched up there and pulled out one of the eyes. Now, I did read in the other entry for the other eye quickly while we were sorting this first one out what would have happened if he'd have pulled that. He pulled the one that sets off the bird guardians, and he fought those, and they were pretty easy just to run with. Sometimes if you want to run a live conversion like this, you don't necessarily have to go to all the trouble of coming up with all the focuses and stats for everything, because it's just one fight. It's just like a unique. It's just going to exist quickly. You don't have to go to all that work. You just need to know what its attacks are, right? Have them worked out. So that's really just a case of what its main attack stat would be, and if it's focused in that attack, which will give you its roll to hit, and then based on what kind of damage it is, which you can think of in terms of, you know, normal weapons, it's usually based around a 1, 2, or D, 3, D6 sort of thing, depending on different gradients of weaponry. And you can roughly work something out to that, and then, you know, pop a special rule or 2 in there to really set it aside from everything else, and just give it a health pool. And then that's kind of it. So you really only usually need 1 stat for it. When in doubt and you need a target number or a number for something, what I will tend to do, if I want at least a half challenging one, I'll roll 3d6 and add 4 to it. You know, we need a random target number, bang, go the dice, plus 4, that's your target number for this particular test. You know, things like that, you know, or, yeah, so, And, you know, if it's an opposed roll, you can quickly, again, work out straight away on the spot, or what would their perception be. So, yeah, for some of those cases, it really was not a case of even converting from a monster, but just taking the key stats that are going to be used and actually keeping them in your head, and then just running the player against that really fast. So there's no downtime whatsoever. They go straight in thinking you are prepared, where all you're really doing is carrying with you a degree of comfort with the system that you can, you know, just run with it fast. So yeah, he pulled the eye out that set off the Guardians and got knocked off the statue. Took a lot of damage actually around this statue, and those things were pretty hard for him to kill, but he got it done, and he was carrying a few potions with him too, so there's that at least. He decided, well, he's got one of these emeralds now, he's not going to push his luck and try and grab the other one. Now, the other one, as far as an entry in the book goes, as I said, I did check into it, and interactive dogs. I did check into it, and it's one of those classic fighting fantasy your adventure ends here pages, which are not at all compatible with role-playing games, are they? Let's be honest. I mean, if you were running a group through something like this and you've converted it, you can't very well say, okay, so that's a total party kill. Of course, you haven't struck a shot yet, but nor has the enemy. But it's a situation that just would have killed you all anyway. I'm sorry. Yeah, you know, end of. I don't think there's any GM out there, even the most troll-faced prick that you could imagine, that would actually do that. So it's, you know, that's why it's a good idea as you run, get the player to, you know, he's making his own map anyway because he's in an unknown dungeon. So I'm actually telling him and keeping a note of the paragraph pages, the numbers we're on, okay? And then that way, if he wants to do something outside of the limits of the book, and boy, of course, a solo adventure book has a ton of limits, then you can do it. You can accordingly break the book. You can hacksaw it. You can basically say, I want to go back to the very first passage and start down the other way. And you just have a look at your own map and look at the number that you've wrote next to it, because, you know, the GM's told you, okay, we're dealing with this thing now and you want to turn left. All right, so I mean, I could just tell you, so okay, that passage, well, that'll be 293 straight away, you know, the one that he took. But if you wanted to go the other way, then that would be 119 basically, and that's my quick sort of turn to, and, you know, I've got that there as we run. So yeah, as long as you've got the numbers in place, then they can just wander around freely, and you both have that interactive free experience. If you do hit upon your adventure ends here, it's usually easiest to turn it into some sort of trap and basically allow them to backtrack a number out if they can survive it. So the other Emerald Eye would have released deadly gas, which would have killed your adventurer normally, and you know, that's not nice. They should have a chance to roll to really avoid that if they were particularly talented. And so I would have had that been a trap, and there would have been a large degree of damage. And if they're hanging onto the statue, maybe they fall off and they take a mass more damage on top. And you know, if he survives that, then he's beaten a Your Adventure Ends Here page, which is great. And you know, you know what listing you were on before you came into the room, or the last previous listing from the passage, and you just like turn a couple of pages to catch up and go a different way again. So it's really easy, guys. You can do this, and doing this has shown me that the potential's there to be able to actually do this with more of these fighting fantasy books, dare I say it. Oh my gosh. But anyway, maybe even with a group. Oh my double gosh. So, anyway, pushing on, he got one of the emeralds. It turns out one of the notes in this place tell you even that to be able to get out of here, you need the correct jewels, and people are collecting jewels and some precious stones and things, and you need to use them at the final door, and that's the only way out. So he knows he's got to collect these things. So he pushed on. He came to a spirit light. There was this big light thing that was beaming down out of the ceiling with faces in it, and he decided to walk through it. So in doing so, he gets given this piece of information. He's fed little tidbits of information about stuff to come in the dungeon, little clues. There'd been warning here about like a manticore, and how to fight it, beware its spiky tail, sort of thing, and later on we learn about the blood beast, which you will be able to find as my conversion piece online. Woohoo! So keep it there on my blog or wherever, or you'll see it appear on Oracle, of course. So yeah, he went through the spirit light, came to the dark room, as it's called, with the gold ring in. And it's a case of what do we do here with some of these special items that assist you in some way. Because like if you've got a special item that, for instance, gives you some luck back, one way that I got around that was to say, well, you can have a dragon point back, because at the moment I've been running dragon points, which is a homebrewed thing that was actually another player thought of, and I decided to use. Dragon points would be, as whatever level the players are, that's how many dragon points they have, and it allows them a re-roll, and when they're spent, and the only way they come back is natural tests, natural 18s rolled on tests. That gets you a dragon point back to your cap, which is your level, and when you level up, you of course gain 1 dragon point for doing so. So it's been interesting. It's allowed them to be that extra little bit heroic as well, and know to re-roll on things, really commit to what they want to try re-rolling and that. And so, yeah, maybe it's like a case of, okay, you get a dragon point back. Oh my god. And, that type of thing. I wouldn't do that too regularly. But for something where, like, a real find has been luck, then I think that is the equivalent to, like, testing your luck, really. In fighting fantasy terms, that's a good match. So he eventually came to a room with a load of like giant maggots in it, and the maggots were around this dagger. So he took the dagger, and I say giant maggots, which meant there was a giant fly that flew down and grabbed him and pulled him up into the ceiling, and then dropped him, and mass falling damage, and then went into the dogs went in for the attack again. The whole world just rocked. Right, so anyway, the dogs are chasing each other for a bone now, it seems. Right, so anyhow, he fought the fly. Did a fair bit of damage to him. Again, he's taking the potions, he's taking the healing, he's taking the breathers. He's got his provisions on him. He's all ready to prop himself up, but there's a limit on that, on how long that will last him, the potions especially. So from there he turned right after the giant fly, because he came to a left-right junction. So he came to a chasm, and he was able to jump over the chasm, which he did. He came to a crazy man who had petrified a knight, and he had to guess like this thing to not be petrified himself, this riddle thing, this puzzle. Then he moved north up that passage and carried on, went left, came to, where did he come to? I've got here written Skeleton Warrior. I mean, things like that are, again, very simple to run, and the Manticore parchment. So it's indicators of what's coming. And went through to a room with mushrooms in, which he's not going to be silly enough to pick and eat. Came to a room that's supposed to have goblins, so it became Genlocks. So yeah, they've got them in here. Well, those Darkspawn do get around. They're not a Ferelden only problem after all. So yeah, fault them thar Genlocks. Also, the Doppelganger potion. That was it a potion? Some sort of, it was a spell basically, and you put on yourself. That's an interesting thing, and that's supposed to be used for a later encounter with the troglodytes, which he's done. Well, it can be troglodytes, so it's these tiny, nasty little things. We don't even really allude to what they are. So, I mean, we've got to remember, this is Tevinter, okay? So this is a place where they conjure all sorts of things, and they are just thoroughly hedonistic, and this is the place where you could imagine, like, genetic engineering, but, with magic and ideas like that. Well, anyway, he pushed on north from here and rescued a prisoner. The prisoner gave him some advice, and then he eventually came to a pipe in the wall. So he decided, do you know what, I'm going to crawl down that pipe. But, about 1/3 through the dungeon, that's where the session ended. So, that brings this one to an end. Bit of a cliffhanger, what's in the pipe? Well, if you go too far down it, it's another one of those, your adventure ends here, thingamies. But, we'll see what happened, and how I got around that, and how he got around that, and what we did. But until next time, I'll see you at the table.